see, everyone at some point has incurred a debt. However little it may be, if not well managed, it can go out of control. And so this morning we get tips from, a credit guru in terms of how you get to manage your debt so that it does not get you to levels where then you start wondering, how do you manage? And perhaps one of the reasons why the country is not in the best of shape today is because of the numerous cases of debts that we have incurred. And we keep asking ourselves, must we go to that direction? And while they would say it's not bad to run into debt, it is very, very crucial that you have proper, policies on how you get to manage this. So Jeng Credit CEO as well as Managing Director, Mr. Peter Macharia Kamau, joins us this morning to perhaps enlighten us on some of the key factors that would be helpful for someone to get to manage their debt. We could go a little bit personal, but all the same, we do not mind expounding the conversation further as to looking to, the public aspect or generally organizational aspects. And thank you so much, Peter, for creating time to be with us this morning. And I'm glad that you come at a time where, on the dailies, in the worlds of news, we are being told that, times are extremely hard, extremely tough, that, they have pushed Kenyans into debts, and not just into debts, but into actually defaulting on these very loans. That's a story that has been captured on one of the papers, and actually all the papers, just that it finds itself on the front page of the Daily Nation, expounded further on the back page. They say loan defaults increased for the 5th consecutive month to hit a record of 483 billion in May, amid a stressed economy that has made it harder for individuals and businesses to service their loans.
Thank you.
Economic times or lack of proper management?
It's both tough economic times, especially during the post-COVID period. Or rather, we are coming from a COVID period, COVID season, where most businesses were affected. And then, as usual, our elections cycle affects our businesses. And generally, the world economy is going through tough times. But the beauty of it is that Kenyans are very resilient. They're always able to navigate and sail through tough times.
All right, yes. But even still, the underlying factors have to be addressed. True. That today we have this report, however resilient a person can be, it's a report that troubles them. That you borrow from Peter to pay Tom or to pay Paul, is one thing that really needs to be addressed. And despite the troubles that are here, or despite the situation, this then has to be managed, because out of these numerous debts that people have not been able to service is where we get cases of suicide, is where we get cases of depression, is where we find some of the entities that have been set up going down, because then people are not able to manage this. That there's still availability of forms of credit, yet again people are not in the best position to manage this. What does it mean?
Well, it's true there are several factors that are compounding this issue to make it that huge. Number one being poor personal finance, where you find that during the onset of these mobile loans, it was very easy to access, and or rather digital loans. It makes it very easy to access funds anytime, any place. Hata ukiwa kwa sherehe unafinya unabonyeza simu hivi, you get money.
Ukienda lunch ukose pesa kulipa
unalipa. So that kind of setup makes it makes the populace engage in unplanned for finances.
Is that a bad thing? Because then it appears like it comes to save many, sorry. But at the same time, is it a saving factor, or really then it's one that plunges Kenyans into more trouble economic-wise?
It's I'm calling it lack of personal finance skills. Because any debt, or before you think of incurring or borrowing any debt, you must plan for it, you must strategize, you must do enough research, you must look at your finances.
Plan for 100 bob debt, plan for 1,000 bob debt, 4,000 bob debt.
You need to ask yourself, is my income able to pay this debt?
Okay.
Because the debt, fine, it will be 100 bob plus interest. If you fail to pay on time, there will be penalty on arrears. You see now it compounds the 100 shillings to be 500 or 1,000. So ideally, we all need to plan and ensure that we take healthy debts. A debt that will make your life better, that will improve your income, that will generate an income, a debt that you're able to reinvest in, and it pays itself back. Then the second factor is financial literacy. If you look at our academic system, there's no, ideally all the courses, all the subjects, all the institutions, from nursery to university to tertiary colleges, they need to be taught how to manage finances, entrepreneurial skills, or personal finance skills, so that when you are released into the world, when you get your income, you're able to plan for it, you're able to budget, you're able to save, and you're able to ensure that you don't plunge yourself into debt.
Is this not supposed to be practical? Because people will tell you, I earn 5,000 bob in a month, I earn 10,000 bob. What is the need for me to know how to balance and plan this? Because after all, however much I balance and plan, at some point I run into debt. And if there's anything, you know, finances cannot really save you from is on the question of debt, because as little as they may be, it could stop you from doing anything else, from enjoying life. But one thing is for sure, it will get you running into debt.
Well, the bottom line of it all is that you need to plan, and you need to really. Experts say you're supposed to live within your means. Cut your coat according to your size. So if your income is 5,000, can your budget be, or can your life revolve around that 5,000? Yes. You cannot earn 5,000 and you want to live the life of a person who is earning $1 million. And you know that's now, it's something that is really coming out, especially in Facebook, whereby people are faking a lifestyle. But in the real sense, that person earns 5,000. And you know what happens by the end of the day? You plunge yourself into debts that you can't pay. So that's the same.
And how then does one get to attain the same? Like we say, these are not some of the things that you would get, you know, at the level of schools. And if they're there, it's on, you know, you really do not get so much information that could be helpful. And so when you talk about financial literacy.
You remember those piggy banks?
Yes.
The school, or rather the nursery school, or your parents should look for that box whereby you're able to put that coin. And when it's full, you're now told this is your money. Then you're shown where a bank is. It's open in a children's account. Then you deposit. Then you're told what type of gift do you want. If you talk about a very expensive gift, you're told, no, the money in that box is this much. You see, it builds in that capacity to be able to know that these are your limits, this is what you're able to save, and this is what you're able these are your earnings. And it helps a lot because when you graduate now, you go to the upper classes. Even when you go to university, those basic entrepreneurial or business courses, they'll be easier to embed in a student's brain than when you are left out and you're now told you're now a graduate, a doctor, a lawyer, an engineer. Now go and start earning, or go out there and start your business. That's why you find more than 70% of businesses fail by the third year. It's a standard statistic. Observation. Yeah.
Why? Because
of that lack of financial literacy. And financial. Now on our part, as Jeng Credit, we usually go out of our way and ensure that all the blogs we have on our Facebook website and any article that we write, we try to be very educative. We try to disseminate as much information related to personal finance, entrepreneurial skills, business management, financial management, all those skills, so that even when by the time you come to our office and borrow, you will not mismanage that kind of loan.
All right. And I mean, When we're talking about, something as basic as inculcating these values at such a tender age, you'll agree with me that a majority of us had the privilege of having the piggy banks and all this. But true to it is that it gets to a certain level when you start handling money and you realize you have zero knowledge of this. And that is to tell you that, those are just the basics that as well our parents really understood. And not many people get into, the crucial aspect of understanding finances and, having basic knowledge on, finances, having that aspect of literacy. How far should we take it, or what extra mile do we need to make this realizable, to make it practical, tangible, and helpful to the masses?
My personal proposal or advocacy is that personal finance skills should be in the core curriculum of both the primary, secondary, and the universities. So at least, even if you are doing a religious course, you need to have a basic unit on financial management.
Okay.
Because by the end of the day, all those courses, all those graduates, all those students, even if you leave Form 4 or Standard 8, you should have at least been taught a unit on business or personal finance. Because you might leave Standard 8, then you go and start a tailoring shop. How will you manage the business? However small, it's a micro business, yes, but it needs some basic skills. So you don't operate at a loss. Yes.
Okay, that will be interesting. And even before we look at now the finances and how you get to just manage them and understand the basics of it, let's get to the heart of the matter. That is how we get to manage our debts. These reports are really not so friendly. True. And like we started by saying, you borrow from you, I'll borrow from you, Peter. And yes, I will get to pay Paul. So the next time I will borrow from Paul and then pay another person. And the circle continues. You do not want to tell me that all these people really lack financial, knowledge on how they can manage, on how they can handle their debts. What's even worse is this report that speaks of the fact that they have not been able to service. People will tell you that, I have had to buy a new SIM card just because I could not manage 5,000 debt. And it's a reality that is happening. And then they get a new SIM card, and from that SIM card, then they get to incur another debt. And the circle continues.
Well, it's true, the cycle continues, and 483 billion is a lot of money that has not been paid. But by and large, we need to call for, number one, financial discipline, and then knowledge. Because like now, what is also compounding this issue, the interest rates for lending have gone up. And very few people are aware of that. So if you look at, let's say, even the mobile apps or the basic, the loans that are given to the micro, small, and medium enterprises of personal individuals, they've gone up by a certain percent. Because the KRA added the finance bill, once the finance bill was enacted, 20% excess duty was added on all loans. For the mobile, traditional loans in a bank, in a microfinance. So it's a cost that was unprecedented, and very few people are aware of it. But you see, you're already servicing a facility, and that cost has to kick in. It started this month. So automatically, this issue will have to be, it will balloon to a bigger issue. Then the other issue is proper research. When you're borrowing, very few people research, because you see, when you're when you're setting up a startup, you're supposed to do a very good SWOT analysis for that business. Also, get a mentor or someone to hold your hand and help you through that business. But most of us, it's like you want to keep secrets to yourself. Oh, I'm starting a nice business, I'm starting a salon. You don't want to consult, you don't want to seek advice.
You don't want bad luck.
Exactly. So the moment you you limit yourself to the knowledge you have, you plunge yourself into a crisis.
Okay. And so if entities, big ones, governments are finding it hard to manage their own debt with all the financial support and gurus around them, with all the financial advice at their disposal, what more for, a usual person, any other citizen, any other person? And just when we come to the question of, managing this debt, it is okay to incur debt?
Yes, debt is good because it helps us undertake projects that we will not undertake by virtue of savings. Because if you have a major project like putting up a building, you can't do it, you can't save until you put up that building. So a debt is always good. The problem is us, not the debt. And for example, like what makes government end up in debt is the issue of poor fiscal discipline. You find that there's a lot of corruption such that if a project is worth 1 billion, half of it or half of that money, and it's borrowed funds, we will end up in people's personal pockets. So those are challenges that the government needs to work around and try to ensure that the people around their money have integrity. Because if you put people who are able to have long hands and dip their pockets into the cookie jar, it will not, the money, people will always be servicing debts that are ending up in personal and private individuals. And therefore, a debt is a good thing, even for the government, even for a person at a personal level. Because for the government to undertake a road like expressway, it needs a debt. For the government to undertake a project like, let's say, the green power, the wind power generation system, the geothermal generation system, it needs a debt. And you can see it's helping the populace or the Kenyans to make work easier. There's light at home. There is a power generated to run various businesses, various factories. So the main factor of production is electricity. Because even here in this studio, you can't run without electricity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So what is this mishap, or what is this, gap that gets many not able to manage their debt? Because then if debt is good, if it is available, do you think then, those ones that access the same should be treated to so much rigidity, so to speak, in terms of, according them these loans? Because why then is it that we also have instances where individuals are able to, service their loans, but they just choose not to? Yeah.
Well, the main challenge with that is the relationship management between the borrower and the financial institution, or the borrower and the financer. Because the moment there's communication breakdown, the borrower might decide to run away, or might decide to even to go to court, which will even compound the matter further, because courts will never rewrite a contract. And therefore, it's upon financial institutions to ensure that they employ relationship managers or customer service managers or credit officers or credit analysts or bank staff who have excellent communication skills and relationship management skills. Because if you mismanage that partnership, it becomes bad. And someone who is willing to pay will not even come and say that I want to pay.
Yeah. Because
ideally what a financial institution should do, or rather what we do at Jeng Credit, if a customer speaks out and says, I was employed, I'm no longer working. I was running this business, it used to generate 100,000, now the income has gone down, it's 50,000. We have a sit down with that client, we repackage the facility, we restructure the installments, we even give rebates, we reschedule the facility, we lengthen the installment, the repayment period, so that it suits the installments that the new installments are able to suit the current income of the borrower or our clients.
All right, so what's the importance of working with a financial advisor? Because we all agree that this is a not so much easier space. And so when we're talking about this knowledge, you can only acquire basics. But when you get to the heart of managing finances or the heart of managing businesses and entities that really see, you know, activities revolving around huge finances, it will be important to get, you know, a person who's a specialist or a professional in this line. For an individual, how important would it be for one to work with a financial advisor in the event that they manage to handle their, to pay them?
It's very important because it's just like I can relate it to a patient visiting a doctor.
Okay.
And then the doctor tells you go to the lab. So equally, a financial advisor is someone who is able to see ahead, plan ahead, plan your finances well in advance so that you don't enter into turbulence and you're not prepared.
Yeah.
Or you're not, you're not able to have the skills and the points to negotiate with your financial institution. Because a financial advisor or a financial expert helps you to manage your finances and ensure that they are seamless. There are no challenges. You're able to fit in and you're able to have a very good relationship with your financer at all times.
How expensive is it for one to say, I now want to have a financial advisor working with me? And when you get to that, does it mean it's now entire, in your entire life, then you work with the help of a financial advisor, or that would be instrumental for those ones that are in the setup of business?
Well, the cost varies from one advisor to the other. A
standard range? They say it's an expensive affair. That's why I'm asking that.
Well, on our part, we don't charge. We give a free service to all our clients. We give free consultancy and free financial advisory services at zero cost. Well, I don't want to comment on a fee or a scale of fees that I don't have control over, but I would request those who have who encounter any, they negotiate. If it's expensive, try and negotiate. If it's not working out, shop for, because shop for more and seek the one who is able to fit into your budget. And then it's not necessarily that you must work with one financial advisor forever, because once you get that knowledge, it's like a toddler. If you're able to learn how to do the baby steps, then you're able to ride a bike, so be it. You can be consulting them on need basis.
Okay.
Yes.
Let's talk about debt now. At the heart of it, there are instances you incur, debt from 2, 3, 4 different people. Just how then do you get to manage from that aspect, and especially when it comes to servicing the loan and saying that you have to make payments? What are some of the priorities that should be at the front or at the forefront of you managing this debt?
The first thing in managing your debt is find out whether you have a good relationship with the financial institution. Then number 2, find out whether the charges that you are incurring are manageable. Because if they are on the high end, I would advise that you look for a cheaper financial institution. Then number 3, consolidate all your debts and manage your debts from one point. Because you can imagine if Peter is calling you, John is calling you, Linda is calling you, all at the same time demanding for debt, it will be, you will get disoriented. So my advice is consolidate your debts into one cheap financial institution. Then manage it from there. Ordinarily, in the financial world, we call it buy-off. Buy-off all those debts that are out there, consolidate into one point, and service it from there. We also offer that service. Oh,
good. And now I come to Jeng Credit Limited, and I want to, first of all, I'd want to assume that people then get to register with you.
Yes,
That
yes.
is very, very important.
Yes.
And so to your clients,
Yes.
those ones that get to credit facilities to ask for debt, what are some of the questions that you need to ask before you get yourself into this debt? What are some of the basics that you need to understand before you agree that, fine, this is the amount of money I'll take, or maybe before you agree to a top-up, or, you know, better yet, just to say you have to save lots of money, and maybe get the benefits around the monies that you have saved?
Number one, what we do, or what we seek to analyze or to understand is the ability of the borrower to pay the facility applied. Because you might apply for a loan of 1 million, but your income is 10,000. So ideally, we ask you that, we pose that question to you. How do you intend to pay this loan?
And so due diligence has to be conducted proper.
We have a software. We have a technology that assists us in that. We're able to check the 3 CRBs and find out whether you service your facilities in the past and how well do you do that.
Yeah.
And then upon realizing that maybe you don't have the ability to service the facility, we request you to readjust the loan. Partly yes, partly no. And one of the reasons why the government is borrowing locally is because the debts out there, or rather the world superpowers are also going through a credit crunch. So we are not able to get cheap facilities as a country. Yeah. Then number two, one way of mopping out the excess money in circulation, so that we're able to manage inflation and avoid going to recession, is to, number one, increase the interest rates, which the CBK has already done. And then number two, try to reduce the amount of money that can be lent to their lives.
Would they be faulted for that? Because then you're told, if you have to borrow, make sure that there is a tangible reason as to why you're doing this. Like we have said, there are people who will get to the restaurants, they're not able to pay for their bills, and then they'll go to some of these digital platforms that offer quick money in terms of quick debt. Then they just do what it is that is needful, or the needful at that very moment. Just how dangerous is it for you to, you know, incur debt randomly, miscellaneously, if you may want to call it?
Yeah, it's quite dangerous because debt, Waswahili husema dawa ya deni ni mali.
Yeah.
So by the end of the day, that debt that you borrowed,
you have to pay.
So plan for governments, consult, ask for that loan agreement, see your lawyer with it, find out whether you are sending the right thing. See your banker with it, find out whether the numbers are making sense to you, and plan properly before you enter into any debt. Yeah.
All right. Still on managing debt, and numerous proposals we have seen out here as to just giving people options of how best they get to manage their debt. When it comes to the question of payment, and there are instances, like we said, you'd have more than one people that you owe. How do you get to balance this in form of making these payments? Because you could be having more than one people that you have borrowed from, but you really do not have these monies again to also just service the debt. Or there are instances where you have just enough to maybe cater for one. In such a case, how do you advise a person? Do you go for priority? Do you go for what exactly?
Number one, do not run away from debt. Because tomorrow you never know, you might need to borrow from that same person. So engage all your lenders. Walk to them, tell them, maybe I was supposed to pay today, but today I'm sorry I can't have that money.
Communication.
Yes, communication. Please allow me to pay you next week. And as you wait for next week, maybe pay half to show commitment that you are not running away from his debt.
Yeah.
And it also applies to financial institutions. If you have a debt with any financial institution, don't run away. Don't even run to court, because the court will never tell you not to pay them. Yeah. By the end of the day, you will pay.
Okay.
The court will never tell the financial institution, don't charge interest. You will still pay that interest and the arrears and the penalties. So,
would wish to exit, then how do they exit? what are some of the mechanisms that are incorporated in the processes of CRB to look at those ones that have defaulted on the loans to a point where you want to list them?
Well, there are 3 CRB organizations in the country. That's TransUnion, Metropole, and I can't remember the other one. And for you to be listed in any of those 3, number 1, you must have defaulted. Then number 2, you must have given notice. You must have been notified. You must have been told, clear your debt or your arrears
By this and
by this
time.
period, maybe 30 days. Otherwise, we shall list you in the 3 CRBs. Then if you are listed and you are sure you didn't pay, once you are listed, the listing stays for 7 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's quite a long time. So you can't access credit across.
You can access
But
upon settling the debt that has listed you. And
well,
how do you access? How do you settle? You go settle, then you're given a letter, then you go and request for a clearance certificate.
okay.
Yes.
All right.
But even if you settle, the listing will remain there for 7 years.
Wow. 7 years is no joke. And this then means you can't access credit across, I asked?
You can access.
What are the dangers of that? What are the dangers of being in this list?
Now, the dangers of being in that list is the mainstream financial institutions, that is banks, they can never lend to you.
They have access to your information in the
Yes,
event that they want.
they have access to information. Even microfinances, we have access to that information. But there is some hope on us.
Okay.
At Jeng Credit, we lend to you, whether you are listed or not listed. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Where are you people located, based, and how do they get a hold of you? Because that also is
We're in
important.
Nairobi, at Kaunda Street, in a building called Townhouse, 6th floor, suite 604, 605. And then we also have agents countrywide. In all the major towns, we have a representative who covers all the major towns.
Okay.
Yes, yes.
All right, and so that's pretty much expensive. How do they get to join? What is this? Is this a circle entity, or when you say credit entity, for those ones that would wish to understand, what exactly do you mean?
We are not a SACCO. We are a non-deposit taking microfinance. What we mean by that is that we don't take any deposits from the public. We only lend money that we have borrowed from local commercial banks for not lending to the public. Yes.
All right, what are the questions of due diligence? I know you've mentioned that, and the follow-up questions, or not really questions, the ultimate way of approaching this for you as creditors to make sure that then you do not have experiences of these cases of defaulting.
Well, the number one question, that area that we look at is we ensure that in our application form, there's a space for reason of borrowing.
Okay.
There are applications that we outrightly decline. Number one, if you borrow for betting, we will not lend to you.
Okay.
If you borrow for criminal or fraudulent activities, we will not lend to you.
Are there instances where you've had an experience with people who've come to borrow for this unscrupulous activities?
Yes, there are instances where, especially when there was a lending craze, when there are so many betting companies, people used to come in and borrow. Yeah, but you would decline.
Or because you know that they're going to bet?
Yes, bet is 50-50, you might get or lose.
Or not. So that's like a high risk.
Yes. And then our organization, we do only secured facilities. That is against logbooks or title deed. For cars, we don't look at the age or the model, it's open. Though we also we do unsecured facilities, but to civil servants only. Yes.
And when you say that, then to what level can one borrow, especially from Jijenge? Let's speak about the lowest level. The highest, I think, it can go to as much as?
Well, the minimum you can lend is 50,000, and the maximum is 10 million per
10
individual.
million.
Yeah, 10 million.
All right, well, that's good. And Peter, I have to say asante sana. I know there are a couple of things that we would wish to touch on, especially on the question of debt management and payment, which is very, very important. I see one of them saying here, pay your bills on time each month. This will save you from running into debts. Another person writes to say, just get to know, I mean, have a record of how much you owe someone, and then when it comes to the question of payments, pay with priority, you know, in relation to the question of priority at this very hour or at this very point. And so understanding debt, as Peter would rightfully put it, is very, very important. Understand that when you borrow and you say that, you know, in a month's time I'll be able to pay, and it's a month and you cannot afford, then the noble thing is to communicate, you say, pretty much communicate. And if you're going to earn an extra cost, the better. Are there instances where you could tell someone, if you can avoid debt in totality, avoid, and does it help them grow financially? Because I've had people saying that, you know what, when you get into the debt world and you have the struggles of going out there to make that extra coin so you can pay for the debt, then you get to grow financially.
Well, there are instances where you can keep off debt completely. But for someone who is ambitious, someone who wants to grow their asset, their asset net worth,
Okay.
you'll enter into good debt. What do I mean by that? You might, but for you to now have an asset, you might look for a house to buy. So that rent you're paying is converted into loan installment,
Yes.
mortgage loan installment, so that after 10 years or whichever period, you own your own house, so that you also don't pay rent.
Okay.
It will increase your financial income, and it will also increase your
Capability.
asset worth. Yes.
And I don't know whether this still exists, scenarios where you incur debt and then you're told either bring your phone, bring your TV, bring this and that, so that we hold it until you pay the debt. Is this a way to go? Over time, has it been proven to work? And is it, you know, a way that it works for the borrower as well as the lender?
Well, there are some, the actual lenders, the ones who are called Shylocks. That is how that is their mode of lending.
Okay.
You bring a phone, or you bring a chair, a household item, or some sufurias, or a TV, then they lend against whatever you secure the loan with your asset. But that one is for, I believe it's for that low-end borrower, or low-end, the kind of Shylocks downtown in the River Road.
Okay.
And maybe in the villages.
Well, all right.
It cannot be the way to go, because that shows that you're borrowing small amounts, which should be which should be discouraged. Yeah.
All right. So the smaller, avoid.
Because those small amounts means it's money for consumption. Yeah. Yeah. It's not for.
It's not money that you put to a good project.
Yeah, into a good project.
Okay.
Yes.
And of course, when you set up a project knowing that this is money that has been borrowed, then you go an extra mile to make sure that you see this project work. Your parting shot, sir. My
parting shot is debt is not bad. Kenyans should not be scared by the high levels of debt at 483 billion. But it should be an indicator that we need to soul search, we need to look at our strategies, we need to look at our current policies, our personal strategies, so that we can relook at our steps and improve on the areas that we misstepped or we didn't implement proper strategies, so that you can get out of debt. Yes. Once again, how do they get a hold of you if they would wish to join Jeng Credit, or they would wish to get something from Jeng Credit? Once again, our mobile numbers are 0711 282727, 0711 282727, or 0700 282727. And we are in Nairobi. Our head office is at Nairobi, Kaunda Street, Townhouse, 6th floor, suit 604-605, Jeng Credit Limited.
Thank you so much, Peter Macharia, the Managing Director and also the CEO of Jeng Credit Limited. We're talking about debt management and what is good debt and what is actually bad debt. And from the CEO, we've picked so much so in terms of lessons. He leaves us with this. Very important that we have, financial, say, freedom that comes along with financial knowledge. And so every single time you have an opportunity to learn something about finances, then take advantage of the same, according to the CEO. Asante sana once again. My name is Linda Alela. It was good having you from 6 a.m. It's now some minutes to 10 a.m. East African time. And as always, our programming continues. So make sure that you keep it the home of untold story. Until I get to see you again tomorrow, have a lovely one. Thanks.
Despite being visually impaired, he is a jack of all trades. It is our quest to find answers on how to take care of children with special needs and those with disability. You do not need to see musical notes to understand music, but rather to have your soul feel the vibe.
Actually, for us to make a wheelchair, we have to take measurements of the user.
After doing my assessment, I get to know the parent, I get to know the heaviness she's carrying.
Disability comes at different stages of life.
Well, do you know what's happening around you? Morning Cafe with heated political debates. Baraza la Siasa.
Hiyo kitu azungumzie, angalie hali ya maisha ya watu.
Informative health discussions. Business, farming. Tasty Wednesday, Fitness Thursday, and Feel Good Friday with amazing DJs, celebs,
waimbaji, kuna comedians, alafu kuna wajinga,
and music bands every Monday to Friday from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. The next set of millionaires are farmers. As we know, agriculture has been and still is the backbone of our economy. As we traverse the different counties to meet different farmers, we ensure to get the story of how they started farming and even how they continue to penetrate the market and overcome the challenges.
Hapa, the reason why nilieka goose na si ducks. Goose, they are very easy to maintain.
A lot of farmers keep on calling, inquiring whether you're supposed to raise some seeds in the nursery or you're supposed to do them directly in the field.
The greenhouse helps us control the temperature because the temperature needs to be between 28 to 32 degrees.
Walk this journey with us.
Is a receptionist at Silanga Clinic. He is a primary level teacher by profession, though his health condition could not allow him to fully practice his passion. The father of 4 daughters is gladly giving back to the society with his position at the clinic. His HIV status made it hard for him to pull through his studies.
Teaching course needs you to be active, you need to be very able to go and do exercise, you have to be participative in all activities. But if you are sickling, I don't know whether you can make it. That was now a word from the dean of students. That's how we used to call it. So instead of motivating me, they were just demotivating me, and with my HIV status, just felt that, oh, now this is now the world coming down on me. And
his life has not been easy since he discovered his status.
I remember one day when my mother was being insulted that hata kama unajificha mtoto wako akona ukimwi na atakufa, you see. So when that one came to me, I tried to avoid my relatives. So I was more on my friends who actually did not know my status.
And Charles has not been the only one trying to fight the stigma associated with HIV/AIDS. He is a beneficiary of Médecins Sans Frontières, an organization that provides aid for persons living with the virus in a slum. Agustina Mbwaya is also a member of MSF. The mother of one almost lost hope.
The challenge that I had when I knew about my status, it was about stigma. And it was not self, it was my cousin disclosed to the whole family about my status, because you know when you start, before now it's treat and test and treat, but before it was when you are tested, maybe they introduce you to Septrin and multivitamin, then maybe you'll go back after CD4, they introduce you, maybe when it's very long, below 350, they introduce you to the ARVs. So when she saw the multivitamin and Septrin, she disclosed to the whole family.
MSF has been in operation in Kibera for the last 20 years. It was among the first organizations to employ people living with HIV. In the course of training and working with the team, the HIV client formed HIV support groups. The Kenya Organization of People Living with AIDS was the first group formed.
After forming these groups, we decided that their work will be to bring together other HIV-positive clients who are recently tested and do door-to-door checkups on HIV-positive people in bed in their homes.
Currently, MSF is looking to hand over the mission to the Kenyan government. Some residents aware of the coming handover have expressed concern. But those staying on at the clinics provide reassurance.
It has come a time they have to hand over the clinic to the government. To me, I'll say I am the government too. So